Alright guys, what we're going to be going over next is you want to start out with a bike that fits you and fits you correctly. The last thing that you want to do is put a short guy on a DRZ 400 that has the real tall suspension and their feet are not touching the ground. I'll pan down real quick. I want you to pay attention to this because it's really important. As you can see with Austin sitting on the bike, he's able to sit there on the bike. He's up in the lower cradle part of the bike and he's still able to touch the ground with his feet flat. You don't want a bike, especially starting out with a new person, where their feet are not going to be able to touch the ground firmly from heel to toe. And bike fit is a huge deal that sometimes people overlook. If you're going to be teaching a small kid especially, you know, they've got so many different size bikes, but there's a ton of bikes out there that will fit you. And bike fit is a huge part of riding a bike safely, and a lot of people I don't think actually understand how important it is. But if you have someone who's, you know, a little bit afraid of the bike because they're new to it, you don't want them the whole time that they're on the bike thinking, oh my God, if I start to tip over, you know, I can only hold myself up or balance myself up on my tippy toes. You want them to be able to sit there flat-footed just like Austin is, and that's part of our lesson is just make sure you get a bike that fits correctly. As you can see, Austin's sitting in the cradle of the seat and the motorcycle, and whenever we get ready to start it here in a little bit after we go over all the controls, he's already got a good position to be sitting in. So that's a key element on sitting on your bike and setting it up properly for you as the rider and making sure that your bike fits correctly. And you want to be sitting in that lowest center spot right there where he is. And you can kind of look at behind him, the seat goes up, and behind him he's not sitting way back to the back too far, and he's not too far up on the gas tank. He's right there in that sweet spot where he needs to be. As you're sitting on the bike, this is the right hand side of your handlebars. It's going to be your control group for your right hand side. As you can see, the red switch is your kill switch, and then the little gray switch underneath on the bottom is also going to be your starter switch. And then one of the main components to your riding safely is your throttle. And every time you get on your bike, you want to make sure that your throttle's snapping back. This one actually feels like it's a little tight, but we will get that corrected. But that's something that you want to look at, is make sure that it should be snapping back. It's got a nice low roll. We're going to get it to where it'll snap back. But that's one of the things you want to check for when you're getting on your bike, is make sure that it's snapping back correctly. And oddly enough for us, that's perfect for this video so that you'll know what I'm talking about, because you want that to snap back, not just do a slow roll back. Okay, again, this is a right side. We've already gone over the controls. I zoomed in on them, and then you've got your throttle, which is built into the grip itself, and we've already got it adjusted where it's snapping back. And then you also have your front brake. The front brake, again, it's going to be a control that you're going to use, and we're going to go over how to use it correctly. Okay, this is the left side of the handlebars. We're zoomed in on it so you can see. Up here is the choke. When your bike's cold, you want to know where your choke is, because that'll make it easier to start. You got your high beam and your low beam. You got your blinkers, and then it's also got a center button. When you turn, say you turn your right blinker on, you can push that in, and it'll disable your blinker so that you're not blinking as you're going down the street. And then you've also got your horn down here. And this is your left side. Both sides you got mirrors. When you're setting up your bike initially, you want to make sure that you're sitting on a good level ground and set somewhere where you can actually see behind you, so when you turn your mirrors, you can actually adjust them. You want your mirrors adjusted before you ever take off. That way you're not having to try to look over your shoulder and see what's behind you. That's what your rear view mirrors are for, is to check for traffic and other riders, whatever else. But you want to set your mirrors up before you take off as well. And you also have your clutch on this side of the bike also. You'll be able to squeeze it in, and you want to let it out smoothly. You're going to have a controlled grip when you're letting the clutch out. And we'll get into the friction zone here in a little bit when we get the bike started and going. But again, I don't want to skip any of the parts of the left-hand side of your control group up on the handlebars. As you can see how Austin's got his feet on the foot pegs, he's already got into a natural spot where he's supposed to be. If you'll notice, the balls of his feet are right centered on the foot pegs, and when he gets ready to use his brake, he'll just slide his foot up a little bit, and then he can touch the brake. Again, on the rear brake, we're gonna use that gradually. We're not gonna be going fast or doing anything super fast, and the main thing is learning where your controls are, including where your feet and your bottom brake is part of your control on how you're gonna stop this rig when you get ready to stop. And it's real important to understand that you're gonna ride on the balls of your feet, and then as you need to shift and or use your brake, you're gonna slide your feet forward, but you're gonna have more balance on the balls of your feet, just like you do when you're walking. And it's also gonna help us when we start standing and ride. If you'll get in the habit of riding on the balls of your feet, you're gonna be ahead of the game when you get ready to stand up and ride. As you can see, Austin's turning the bike around now. We're still working in the garage. We've got controlled lighting in here, and we're trying to get this video to where it comes out really good and you can understand and see everything. But again, I mean, this is great practice for somebody that's new. He's learning the weight of the bike, how to kind of hold the bike balanced, and the engine still hadn't even been started yet, and he's moving it around in the garage, doing a 3-point turnaround. And now we're gonna go over the left side and the left controls, especially what you're gonna be controlling. Okay, again, folks, this is the left side. I wanna point out something real quick while Austin's holding his foot still. These are built riding shoes. They're still high rise. His ankle's down in here, it's still covered up. You got this nice leather strap. Again, I think these were $50. That's, you know, a good pair of riding boots, you're gonna spend anywhere from $200 to $500, but when you're already got the expense of the bike and you're starting out, I mean, that's real important. I mean, at least we got the ankle protection that we were talking about. He's got his left foot on his left foot peg. He's on the balls of his feet again. And then the control right in front of that is actually the shifter. And he'll be able to slide his foot up, reach the shifter to downshift, and he'll also be able to upshift. He'll put his foot under it to upshift. The way this bike works is it's got 5 gears, and essentially what you have, if you want to picture it, you got first gear, and then neutral's right in between, then you got second, third, fourth, and fifth. And what that means is when you're in neutral, you got to push down 1 to get it in first gear. Neutral will be halfway between. So whenever you get ready to start shifting, what happens to a lot of new riders, they'll actually kind of get hung up in neutral. They'll let their clutch out and their bike getting going. That's something that you'll learn, and each bike is different. Some of them it's real easy to pop it up into second, but just make sure when you go to shift into second, which is later on, you're gonna pull up firmly and get it all the way into second so that you go past neutral. And I doubt we even get into third, fourth, or fifth, because it's just a basic beginner how to learn how to ride safely. We're not gonna be in third or fourth gear. So for right now, I want you to understand the principles of how the bike shifts, and that this is the shifter, and you're gonna control it with your left foot. You also have right behind you the kickstand. The kickstand's gonna be on your left side. The KLR actually has a kickstand, and it comes from the factory, way too long. When you get off this bike and you set it down, the bike will lean, but not much at all. You get a really strong wind, and as windy as it is here in Oklahoma, we're actually going to replace this. There's a $50 part, and it's about 1 inch shorter than this factory kickstand, and it'll lean the bike over a little bit better. So whenever you get ready to ride, it'll be easier to get your kickstand up. Because right now, if he levels the bike and goes to push his kickstand with his foot, you'll see it kind of hangs up. So he actually has to lean the bike over past center to get it to go up and then come back over. Okay guys, we're fixing to wrap up the going over the bike. The last thing that we want to do is we're going to go over the center controls and your gauges, and we'll go over that real quick. The ignition key is right here, and I don't know if you're actually going to be able to see it. I might have to move the camera around a little bit, but somewhere on your bike, depending on what kind of bike you have, when we're talking about the dual sport bikes, you're going to have an ignition key. A lot of your dirt bikes may or may not have them, but all your street legal dirt bikes should have a key. The ignition switch is here. This is going to be your tachometer. It kind of tells you how many RPMs that your engine's running, your speedometer, and then also your engine cooling. You've also got a blinker indicator, a high beam indicator, and a neutral light indicator. And if you remember when we were talking about shifting just a minute ago, when you're shifting from first into second, you're actually gonna be going, because first is here, and neutral's right in here, and then here's second. This light is actually gonna flash because you're gonna go past neutral when you're going into second gear. So that'll be another thing to look for. The big thing is we're gonna be riding. One of the things that I want everybody to understand when they're riding, you want your head up and your eyes up, and you're gonna be looking ahead. You may not see this flash of green, and actually I hope that you don't, because if you don't see it, that means that you're looking ahead where you're supposed to be, not down at your gauges. You don't need to look down at your gauges other than to check your speedometer and, you know, your coolant and stuff like that periodically when you're riding, just like when you're driving your car. You don't spend most of your time looking at your gauges, you check yourself. And as you drive your car more and more, you can tell by the wind noise and the amount of wind noise how much, a good guess of how fast you're going without even looking down at your speedometer. It's going to be even more true riding a bike. You're going to get the feel of how much wind's blowing on you, that kind of stuff. And also you're going to actually be feeling the RPMs a lot more on a bike than you would in your car. So you'll be able to feel when you need to shift. So these gauges here are for safety. If you notice there's a red line up here, starts in at around 8,000 RPMs. We're not going to be anywhere close to that. So, but as you get more experience and you're riding faster and harder, that'll be something that you'll want to periodically check. But for the most part, we're just going to be slow rolling and doing balance drills and stuff like that, learning how to stop, start, and balance the bike. All right, what we're going to be going over next is the pre-ride inspection and everything